Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our great sponsors. If you're new to the show, these are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. I really recommend that you check them out. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to their website and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. It's probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out their great products today. We also want to say thank you to Huddle. You know, as a football coach, I used Huddle for years. But as an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the tools that Huddle provided. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We also want to say thanks to Snap Raise. If you've ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with tremendous success, and so will you. Check out all their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We also want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is the official high school sports administration platform for a number of states, thousands of athletic directors, and even if your state uses a different platform, you can be a home campus school. Their athletic clearance and eligibility platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast and see all the great things they can do for you. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Your athletic department is doing great work, and Gipper is going to help you share that in your community and beyond. Go to Gipper.com, see all the ways that their platform can help you promote your program, your teams, and your athletes. That's Gipper.com. We'd also like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. You put one of these units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be like a magnet for kids, for coaches. How about sponsors and parents? You can find out more at vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We'd also like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We'd also like to thank Hometown. Hometown has been changing the game for years with their suite of solutions that includes things like, well, digital ticketing, of course, but how about athletic website construction, fee-free fundraising, and a whole lot more. Whether you're a principal or an athletic director, Hometown is going to help you save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. That's hometown.com. And we'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. At my school, we use surveys for everything, kids, coaches, you name it. And the information that would come back, particularly from parents, was almost always over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you. And having that data was incredibly valuable, especially when you might be visiting with a frustrated parent, or how about your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We've got a return guest. Listeners to the show will recognize the name Kiara Arce. She's the regional athletic coordinator for the Boston Public Schools. Kiara was on one of our recent AD Think Tank segments, did a great job, got to talk to her a little bit, thought she'd be a great guest. So here we are. Kiara, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, for our listeners, we're recording this on August 20th. So many of you around the country are back in school. I think just as many others are still waiting for school to start after that Labor Day holiday. Kiara's in that situation, so she's still got a little bit of summer break going on, but I'm sure she's working hard. Kiara, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Um, Maybe take us up through your own college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Kiara Arce origin story?
I'm originally from New York. I was born in New York in the Bronx. Me and my mom moved to Boston, and I've lived in Boston my whole life up until I was 21. And then I moved to Framingham, Massachusetts. I started off, my whole entire life, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then my junior, senior year, took a 180 and I did sports management. I ended up going to LaSalle University in Newton, Massachusetts. I was there for 3.5 years because I graduated a semester early, um, and got my bachelor's degree in sports management. And then after school, I started working with the Waltham Parks and Recs department. That was pretty cool. I ended up creating actually like my own summer camp. So I was a summer camp director for one summer. It was a sports leadership camp, which was pretty cool. It was called LEAP. Do I remember what LEAP stands for right now? No, I do not, but it was pretty cool. That went on for I think like 8 weeks. And then after Parks and Rec, I went to Boston. Or actually, no, I went to the Boys and Girls Club. Then I got the call from Boston Public Schools and started there.
All right, I want to take a deep dive into all of your career stops. We're going to do our research, find out what LEAP stands for in our next segment. But I want to go all the way back to, growing up, maybe even before you got into regular sports in middle school or high school. What are some of your memories about, in the neighborhood or the city park with friends or parents? What are some of those memories?
Thank God for my mom. She put me and my siblings in pretty much everything. I think the only sports I didn't play were like lacrosse, field hockey, and soccer. I pretty much did it all. I've been playing softball since I was 4, and that ended up being my main sport that I kept all throughout middle school, high school, after high school, college, all that. I did the basketball, gymnastics, cheerleading. I dabbled in football a little bit, but then my mom was like, no, maybe not football. So I was like, okay, cool. Um, but yeah, I've pretty much been involved in sports my whole entire life, and in school, outside of school, different clubs, different travel teams. It was pretty cool.
Now, as you were climbing that ladder, I just love to hear the stories about doing all the different sports. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, New England, that's like field hockey, mecca right there. But as you got into organized, let's say, school-based sports, were you just a single sport kid? Did you continue to do multiple sports through high school?
Definitely middle school, I did volleyball, basketball, softball, and then my 8th grade year, softball. We actually got pulled, not all of us, some of us actually got pulled up to play varsity for the high school team. So I was one of those, I think there was 3 of us that got pulled up from 8th grade to play varsity. So I did that. And then in high school, I played volleyball and softball for all 4 years
Okay.
and then stuck with softball the whole entire time. I started coaching softball when I was like 16. I went to this place called The Base. It's a great organization, nonprofit. They're the ones who really got me back into like loving the sport because unfortunately the high school I went to, I didn't really love playing there. I didn't really love that school, but playing with the base definitely helped me keep all that stuff with me.
Oh, looking back at those days, you mentioned you played, the rec ball, travel ball, and your high school ball. I'm a big moments guy. Can you look back on that time of your life and pick out a moment that maybe at the time when you were in high school, it didn't seem like that big of a deal. But now, looking back with a little wisdom, a little perspective and experience, you can point to a moment and say, hey, that was significant for me. Anything stick out for you?
Definitely the turning point of like my attitude as a player. Um, right, as you know, as kids, teenagers, we have attitudes, and sometimes that does translate into sports. And so it was always the like angry, like if I didn't get something right, I was very hard on myself, very, very hard on myself. So growing up and like looking back on it now, I'm like, and watching my brother, I have a brother who's 17, and watching how hard he is on himself, I'm like, it's not worth it. You just have to like brush it off and pick yourself back up again. And if I had somebody in my ear telling me that 24/7, then I probably would have changed it sooner. But definitely looking back on that is just like don't be so hard on yourself. Like you're in high school and you're doing amazing. So just keep
Oh,
going.
yeah, and that's great advice for anyone listening, both students as well as coaches or ADs. Thanks for sharing that. Let's go and fast forward to your college days. You were on the veterinary track, and then you said you pulled a 180. What happened? Was there another moment that made that occur?
I was doing work with the base. I did like internships at the base, and just like sitting back and like hanging out with my friends and just watching everything that the staff did for us as like their student athletes, and then just like us as like humans and as like their kids, and how much they cared for us and how much like impact that they had on us as student athletes, as coaches to us, as mentors to us, helping us with our academics, helping us with our skills, helping us with our, you know, like mock interviews, our resumes and all that. I wanted to do that for future kids when I got older. So just really sitting back and looking at everything that all the staff at the base did and all my coaches did for me, I wanted to do that for kids, especially being in Boston and seeing all the different types of kids and all the different stories that they have, and who has family who supports them and who doesn't have family who supports them. I want to make sure that our student athletes in BPS have at least one person supporting them, whether it be me or somebody else, but I know it's always going to be me.
Oh, wow, that's great. What a great story. And again, always talk about athletic directors are really that servant leader personified. So that's a great origin story for you. Good job. One more question in this segment, then then we will go ahead and take a break. As you went from high school to college, was there still let's say, a tug to be involved competitively, whether that was on the college teams or in rec competitions? How did you scratch that competitive itch?
Definitely. I always have been competitive. I've always stayed competitive. I still am competitive. Just in different parts of my life. I did want to play softball at LaSalle, but unfortunately, just with the environment that I was in for high school, well, all throughout K through 12 in Weston in the suburbs, coming from, Boston was not great. And I did not want that to carry over into college because I just wanted to be happy and I wanted to just play because playing made me happy. And playing at my high school started to make me not like the sport that I loved my whole entire life. So I wanted to just let all that stuff go. And I still played outside of school, and like some of my friends, we would still get together and put games together and practice together. But to play organized, I'd rather just focus on my education. I wanted to keep going with that.
Well, I mean, definitely seemed to work out, and I'm guessing that some of those experiences and lessons, are still with you that you try to use in your job with the coaches and ADs that you work with. So very cool. Let's go and take our first break. Once again, our guest today is Kiara Arce. She is the Regional Athletic Coordinator for the Boston Public School System. We're coming back with more, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to their website and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say before, probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out all of their great products today. We also want to say thank you to our friends at Huddle. You know, as a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, our parents loved the streaming, but there's a whole lot more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com.
Hey Jake, we use Huddle and we actually really love it. A lot of our football teams use it. Well, all of our teams use it who do inside and outside, but the communication aspect of it has been really helpful for the coaches and being able to break down the film and sit in the classroom and watch it on the TV really helps the kids and they enjoy it a lot.
Well, guys, thanks so much for sharing that. We always love to hear when one of our guests is using one of our great sponsors. I mean, you know, just being Captain Obvious here, I'm a lot older than you. I still remember the days of, driving 3 hours to actual exchange a VHS cassette, with the other coaches. What's some of the feedback that you get from your ADs and coaches about the Huddle platform? You mentioned the statistics and doing the data analysis, but anything else stick out for you that they really like?
Um, just just that honestly, because everything else, everything else is great. Being able to do the exchange right after the game is great. You can also choose not to exchange it, which also gets into some issues with coaches. But other than that, yeah, the kids even like they'll comment on each other's like highlights.
Right.
And the kids love the highlights when they are in them. So it'll be really cool to see that and seeing the athletes uplift each other and it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
No, no, and again, you're absolutely right. We talk about making the highlights for recruiting. We have, I think, far more kids that don't go into college. They're still making their own highlight reels that they can save and watch, years later. Hey, our guest today is Kiara Arce. She is the regional athletic coordinator for the Boston Public Schools. Kiara, you just kind of shared your journey up through college. Share with our listeners your career journey and the stops that you made along the way that's brought you to your current position with Boston Public.
So while I was at LaSalle, I took a Parks and Rec class, which is just learning about the world of the Parks and Rec department for a city, town, wherever you guys have it. And the professor, he was actually the director of Waltham Parks and Rec. So we had done a project in the class to create different programs for all ages. It could have been for kids, for adults, for the elderly, because they have, senior living homes come and bring their people to play pickleball and whatnot. So he was asking us to do that as a project, and you could do as much as you want, as little as you want. He was not a stickler about everything, but I did mine, I presented it, and he actually ended up really, really loving all my ideas because it was something that they hadn't done yet. So he asked me if I would like to do an internship at the Parks and Rec department. And I was like, yeah, cool. And he was like, but I also want you to implement these programs that we are talking about. I'll give you the budget, I'll give you whatever you need. Just tell me what you need, and I'll give it to you. You'll have the space. You'll come, I'll show you around. Just let me know what space is best for this, that, whatever it was, and we'll get it done. I'm like, oh, cool. All right. So I did that. I was working at an ice cream shop at the same time and doing the internship at the Parks and Rec department. And then when school ended, summer came, he wanted me to interview for a camp director. And I was like, okay, cool. He was like, but he was saying, I don't know if you'll get it, but just try. Because he was the one interviewing me. And I was like, okay, I will. So I did the interview. I ended up getting the job. And then he was like, okay, the kicker is now you have to create your own camp. I was like, oh, okay. They already had like a list of things they wanted to do. So it was easier in that sense, but he was like, all I'm giving you is like what you need, like the overall what the camp is, but you create everything else. So I did some work with one of my other coworkers and we created the camp. The camp came. We did it for the 6 to 8 weeks. I had new kids every week. Um, it was pretty cool just teaching them how to grow up because it was like middle schoolers. So like just teaching them and transitioning them from middle school to high school. I let them ask me questions. We were able to have a lot of fun. We did some like nature learning as well as teaching them and giving them situations about, how if you're a coach and two of your student athletes start arguing on the court, what do you do? What's the situation? What are they arguing about? What do you do as a coach? What do you think you should do? And we had them acting that out. So that was cool. And then after the summer was over, I loved it. I loved doing it, but it wasn't, I didn't love working for the Parks and Rec department.
Right.
So it wasn't for me. Um, and I didn't know where else to go from there because I was, getting an athletic director position is not easy to do as a fresh out of
Right.
college 21-year-old. So I was like, okay, what can I put under my belt to grow my career and to get to the athletic director position one day? And I found the Boys and Girls Club had a youth and sports coordinator position open. So then I started there. And that was pretty much the same thing as the Parks and Rec thing. After school, kids would come to the Boys and Girls Club. I would just have to have the schedule ready for the entire month of what the kids were going to do when they came, and then plan out for school vacations and like school days off. If we didn't have like the day off, but the school did, we would have the kid. It would be like a daycare. The kids would just be there all day. So I had to plan out the entire day, and it would be like esports. We can go to the gym, play dodgeball, field hockey, kickball, whatever it was, street hockey outside, basketball. But I had to make sure that we were doing at least 4 to 5 like scheduled, planned
Right.
games every day.
Hmm. It sounds again great training for that, AD position. You're working with kids, you're working with coaches, the scheduling of facilities and courses and things like that. I'm curious. I did summer camps and things like that when I was an undergrad 100 years ago. But um, with the Boys and Girls Club, was there much interaction with parents? That's something that every AD and every high school coach has in their toolbox, that parent tool. Did you have to work with parents much in your day-to-day job?
For pickup sometimes, but for pickup usually I was just cleaning everything up and putting stuff away, so I didn't have to really do the parents. But if kids got in trouble or if there was like some type of situation of fighting or bullying or any of that sort, I did have to sit and call parents and have a face-to-face conversation and deal with everything else that came of it. So most of the parents were, because it was mostly when kids got in trouble, and most of the
Right.
parents knew their kid and
Mhm.
knew, okay, I know my kid did this.
They
So,
weren't they weren't surprised. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So I didn't really have to deal with a lot of troubling parents.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that it was kind of in your mind. You wanted to be an athletic director. That's hard to get, as you said, right out of college. Um, what and we're going to jump into your current position in our next segment, but what was it about the AD position? I'm curious. Why was that already a goal for, I think, many people? I want to teach, I want to coach, and then the AD just kind of it becomes something. And for you, it sounds like that. Hey, that was your goal. How did that all come about?
Definitely being in school and learning about what athletic directors do. Um, but also the athletic director that I had for high school, he was the best. He was so kind. He's still there. He's been there for I think over 20 years now. But just the way that I saw him interacting with all of us as students and as student athletes, all the coaches, just seeing how he handled certain situations, it just flicked something off in me and that I just wanted to do the same thing because you could just tell that like you meet someone and you can just tell that they care about their job and not just their job like and what comes with it. Because what comes with our job is coaches. What comes with our job is the students. So having that in your back pocket and working with everybody so that everybody can help the student. He
Mhm.
was always making sure that my grades were good and talking to my teachers so that he knew and I knew that my grades were good for softball. He didn't have to, but I struggled as a student in school. I wasn't a straight A student until my senior year, but just he was just making sure that we had the opportunity to play because he knew I wanted to play, so he made sure that I played.
Wow, what a great testament to him and to you that you're carrying that on. Good for you. Let's go and take another quick break, but we're going to be coming back with more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thank you to our good friends at Snap Mobile, particularly Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it. I'm telling you, it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out all their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We also want to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is the official high school sports administration platform for a number of states, for thousands of ADs. And even if your state has a different platform, you can still be a home campus school. I'm telling you, their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com for more information. As always, don't forget to mention the podcast. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thank you to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Your program is doing great things, and the community should know about it. The team at Gipper, whether it's a simple social media post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter template in your colors, in your logos, it's going to be able to share all the great things that you, your coaches, your athletes are doing. Go to Gipper.com for more information. That's Gipper.com. You're going to be very glad you did. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Kiara Arce. She is the Regional Athletic Coordinator for the Boston Public School System. Now, Kiara, you and I were talking during the break. You obviously had some administrative experience, leadership experience with your Boys and Girls Club positions, but you had no athletic director experience. So I'm really curious, how did you go into that room and sell that hiring committee that you were the person for that job?
So after I got hired and went on for a few months, I did ask our assistant athletic director, like why me? Like what was it? And he was like, you honestly had a lot of experience. And I'm like, I looked at my resume and I'm like, okay. But it was just because I did internships with my athletic director at LaSalle. I did that for a couple years. So that, and then with all the Boys and Girls Club stuff and all the stuff at the base and what I did for the base with event planning and fundraising and we, all that stuff, ended up, selling myself that way that I could be a leader. I could, do the fundraising. I'm not afraid to ask like the hard questions. And I did ask like the hard questions in my interviews too. So just unapologetically being me, but in a professional manner, just making sure that I do ask all the questions. I am very curious and I love learning about everything, about different things, doesn't matter what it is. So that and just using my age. I was 22 when I got the job, so me being 22, social media is on the rise. Do I know everything about social media? Absolutely not, because these teenagers are doing things that I probably can't figure out how to do on my own without asking for help. But seeing like their social media. I made sure to look at their social media before I went in, and I was like, I can definitely, spruce it up a little bit more, make it more interactive, make it more fun for the kids so that they can see themselves, go to games and take the videos and do the reels and all that. So social media was on my mind. Having a fresh set of eyes. I didn't go to Boston
Right.
Public Schools. I didn't I didn't grow up in Boston. I lived in Boston, but I wasn't out in Boston with like where the BPS kids hang out all the time because I was playing softball or playing sports, and after school I wouldn't get out of practice till 5:30, 6 o'clock. I had to go straight home and do homework. So without and I had friends that went to BPS from playing with them at the base, but I wasn't there, but I wasn't in the system.
Right.
I didn't go to school. So having the fresh set of eyes coming from the suburbs too, because everything in BPS for us is like where we have to compare ourselves to the suburbs because the suburbs got it all figured out, and we don't have all the money to figure out what we got to figure out because we have over 100 schools that we have to do athletics for, where versus the suburbs have like maybe two, three schools that they have to figure athletics out for. So making sure that they knew that I would come in with a different perspective and I would push and push and push until change was made.
Mm.
Because their whole big thing was that we want to bring three people in to help make the changes that we need to make because we know we need to make them. But as time went on, it's hard to make changes, especially for people who've been working with BPS for over 10, 20 years. It's hard for them to want to change the stuff. So just making sure that I keep pushing that narrative.
Right. But you brought up so many great points. In no particular order. One, you were unapologetic selling yourself, selling your youth, your enthusiasm. Here the youth was, and it's certainly an advantage. Connecting with those students. The whole social media thing. Hey, that's where Gipper can help you out. Also. The fresh eyes concept. A lot of times there's going to be that internal candidate whether there was this time or not. But I think having that fresh eyes perspective and being able to articulate it, this is what I can bring. Hey, I'm from Boston, but I'm not, Boston public. Just some great, great points to make. Um, and again, selling yourself, just continually selling yourself. The I'm the person you need to hire. Um, let's go and talk a little bit about Boston Public. I'm guessing that the schools, and let's maybe, if it's okay, let's just focus on the high schools for now. I'm guessing that they're, inner city, very much, urban setting, maybe a struggle to find practice fields and things like that. Tell our listeners a little bit about, the makeup of the Boston Public Schools that you serve.
So most of our high schools are 7th through 12th grade. Um, and not all schools don't have sports. So we have a lot of co-ops, and co-ops is just there's a whole school, and the whole school can have one school co-op with them, two, three, four. It could go all the way up to there. Like we have Madison Park Vocational High School, their baseball team has at least five other high schools co-oping with them for baseball. So that's like kind of the layout for all of our athletics. And we also don't carry every, traditional sport. We have one girls lacrosse team. And we say that that's the citywide co-op. So if other students, other girls from other schools want to participate in girls lacrosse, they have to go to this one school. Um, we don't have a boys lacrosse team. And like Boston Latin School itself, they are kind of like on their own island from BPS, but they're in BPS, but they have over 100 sports. I don't know how that happened. I'm not up on the history of Boston Latin School and how they have sailing, they have crew, they have lacrosse, the field hockey. I don't know how they have all that and other schools don't, but the interest also isn't there. We don't have kids up the wazoo wanting to play and do
Right.
sailing or do crew. So, it's very different in that sense, from other schools.
Right. Well, and again, they probably to a degree, their own. I'm trying to find the right word here. Their own entity, if you will, and they've been doing things for a long time. Let's shift gears a little bit. Okay. Y- you're uh, you're new. You've been on the job for a while now. Okay. You're not new. Okay. There's a lot of ways that you can measure success. You can measure it in championship banners and trophies. You can measure it in, well, we've got 100 different sports that we offer. Uh, one way I always measured success of a program was, and you mentioned 7 through 12. We've got full rosters at our middle school level. We've got kids that are saying, boy, I can't wait to for next year and play another season with Coach Smith or Coach Jones. Looking at the time you've been at Boston so far, what are a couple of successes that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Definitely that. So three people were hired in my position. There's me and my two other colleagues, Lyle and Samir. Shout out to them. We all work pretty closely together, and with that comes us having more responsibilities. And so one of the things that I always tell people that was a success and that I love to talk about is that we do now run all-star games. In particular the basketball all-star game for boys and girls. Basketball is really, really big in Boston, really big. So it's like the main, like it's the main thing. That's what everybody comes to see. That's what all the kids want to play. So, we figured the All-Star game for basketball has to be, grander, has to be bigger. I personally started making posters for them, flyers right on Canva. And then um I also, when I sent out and posted those flyers, I also made contact lists. And in those contact lists are city employees, the mayor, college coaches, college athletic directors, and in the area Roxbury Community College, Bunker Hill Community College. It's not just in Boston College, Boston University. I took the time to go to all their websites, look at all their coaches, write down, the basketball coach's name and email, the girls lacrosse name and email, making sure that I add all those specific people to the invite list from my email. And I've actually had a few coaches from colleges come to me during the game or during the event and be like, "Hi, like, are you Kiara?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they'll be like, "Oh, I'm so and so from, Boston College, and I got your email, and I just wanted to come and check it out." And I'm like, "Cool." Then I'll go to the coaches who are coaching the All-Star games. Do you know any students who are applying, who are seniors and who are applying to Boston College and want to play? Yeah, okay, come with me, and I go introduce them to the coach and I leave them, and it goes where it goes. But I ended up getting one of our students recruited by Bunker Hill Baseball. So it was cool for that sense, but that's definitely a success story of ours that I like to share.
Oh, no, absolutely. And again, it promotes the program, promotes the kids, promotes the things you're doing. Outstanding. I love that idea. Kiara, we're going to do this at the end of the show too, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and connect with you, maybe pick your brain a little bit more or just add you to their network, what's the best way that people can connect with Kiara Arce?
Definitely my email, my work email. I also have a work cell phone number. Do I remember it at the top of my head? No, I don't.
Okay.
I can definitely send it to you.
All right, we'll put that email in the show notes, and again, we'll do it at the end of the show. Let's go and take another break. I know that's shocking for our regular listeners, but we're coming back with more, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be like a magnet for kids, for coaches, about parents and sponsors? Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their products today. We'd also like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's through the Ohio program, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you also get 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown. Hometown is truly changing the game with their suite of solutions that includes things like, well, big surprise, digital ticketing. They're still the number one digital ticketing provider. But how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more? Whether you're an athletic director, a principal, or a coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. That's hometown.com. And as always, don't forget to tell them about the podcast. That's hometown.com. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD podcast. Once again, our guest is Kiara Arce. She is the Regional Athletic Coordinator for the Boston Public Schools. Kiara, you and I were talking during the break, and for this segment, it's kind of our optional topics. You've got a great one that I think our listeners would like to hear more about. Can you share in this segment, what's going on in your mind right now?
Definitely want to touch on sportsmanship and especially around the LGBTQ plus community. We have a lot of transgender athletes, and with everything that's going on in the world today, and in the United States, a lot of that topic has come up so much more. And even for us in Massachusetts and in Boston specifically, our mayor is very heavy on she's not changing anything, we're not changing anything, it's gonna stay the way it is. um our trans athletes are gonna be able to do and play where they want to and where they feel like they need to play. We had a LGBTQ coordinator come into one of our coaches meetings and just talk about what to do in certain situations, what coaches should be doing with those, with transgender athletes, or um from my perspective, what coaches should be doing when another team they're playing has transgender athletes, because with kids, you know kids will say anything, and whether they mean it disrespectfully or not, who is up to them. But when I hear, as an athletic director, when I go to a game and I'm passing by a bench and I hear, why do they have two boys playing on their team, that doesn't sit right with me, because they're not boys, they're girls. They identify themselves as girls. And if they identified as boys, they wouldn't be there. And they wouldn't be in the girls' locker room, or they wouldn't be, playing and call, their coach calling them girls. They wouldn't have their female names, their names. So definitely got on there and made sure to tell coaches, like, educate your students. You have to educate your students, because if they agree with it or not, it personally has nothing to do with the sports, has nothing to do with sports. If you don't personally agree with what's going on, cool, keep that to yourself, but we're here to play. Like, those students are here to play. They're not here to get into a political conversation about what they want to do with their lives. They just want to play. So just let them play. Tell your students to, keep the comments, keep them at home. Say whatever you want at home, but while you're on the field and you're playing on a team that's representing a school, that's representing Boston Public Schools, you're not going to be talking like that, and you're not going to be making those type of comments, because it's very important to educate those students, because I've had students come to me crying because they heard them, another team say something like that about them. And that's not, as an adult, as a person who cares about students, as a human, that's not ever nice and fun to hear that kind of thing. So um definitely a big thing. Educate yourself, educate your students. use appropriate language. If you don't know, ask. Like that's the big thing. Ask for pronouns, ask what they go by, ask for their name, but don't assume, don't make assumptions, and definitely don't let your students think that it's okay to bully somebody because bullying isn't okay. We learned that in kindergarten. So,
So I'm based on what you shared, and again, thanks for being so candid. I'm assuming that Massachusetts, the law, if you will, they allow students that identify as an opposite or as the other gender participate in their how they choose to identify. I'm not saying that well, but is that correct?
yeah, and for the MIAA, the Massachusetts sports governing body, they their rules are, if a student identifies as female, then they play female sports, okay. And then for males who want to play female sports, like before we had boys volleyball, we had boys who wanted to play volleyball. And the rule for them is that if the male student's school does not host a volleyball team, then they can play on the girls' volleyball team or on a different girls' volleyball team. It just something like that. So now that we have boys volleyball, the boys now have to wait for the spring to play boys volleyball, but that is the rule. If Brighton High School only has girls volleyball, but a boy wants to play, the boy can play girls volleyball in the fall because Brighton does not offer boys volleyball in the spring.
Oh, that's interesting. So if there is a corresponding sport in that gender, then let's say a boy that wanted to play on the girls' volleyball team because he or because they identified as a girl, they would not be allowed to do so, or did I hear that incorrectly?
Well, if a transgender student identifies as female but wants to play baseball, I'm pretty sure they can. It just because we don't offer, yeah, we offer softball. We
Okay.
don't offer girls baseball. So
Okay.
that would be the argument.
Right.
And
No, it's not the same sport, but
yeah,
um, I guess again, it's um, allowing people to be who they identify, is certainly, I think, a fundamental right as it comes into sports. And, as this is not necessarily Jake talking, but people saying, a boy competing against girls, biological male competing against biological females, is that come up at all, say in swimming or track and field or things like that? How does Massachusetts handle that? How does Boston handle it? Because it's certainly something that occurs, across the country.
yeah. So like with that situation, like a male who identifies as a male, like he is a boy, he will say I'm a boy, but just wants to play volleyball and we don't offer it at that school and he has to play and he end up dominating, and there's complaints. There's nothing we can do. Like it's just that's how it's going to be because until we start offering boys volleyball at that school, he's going to continue playing girls volleyball. But my thing for me personally, and then for me as a coach, like I coach softball past spring. Um, and my players came up to me and said, those two boys, and I was there, they were transgender. Um, and I was like, no, those are girls, but continue. Okay, girls, but are biologically boys and they're, doing better. And I'm like, okay, so get better. Like I can hit and throw just as hard and just as far as these two transgender athletes when I was in high school. I could probably hit further than them. Like it has nothing to do with it had everything to do with their biological body, sure, cool. But at the end of the day, playing the sport, if you're not building your skill to get better, to hit just as much as them, or to hit as hard, or to throw as hard, to throw as far, then you're not really being an athlete. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. Just play. Just build your skill. Getting into all that specific stuff about who they are as a person has nothing to do with sports.
All right. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, again, I really appreciate you being so open and candid about this particular topic. Um, Kiara, this has been great spending some more time with you and get to know you a little bit better and finding out more about Boston Public. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. So we're going to take our final break. We're going to hear from athletic surveys. And when I come back, I'm going to ask you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 items in the toolbox. So let's hear from athletic surveys. And when we come back, we're going to see what Kiara Arce puts in her new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of the podcast. My school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches, even parents. And the information that would come back was almost always over the top positive. And I'm sure it's going to be the same for you. We still got to hear from those squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to hear their concerns, usually address their issues before they turned into something big, but at the same time, collect all that positive data, that 98% approval rating, which is very important when you're talking with one of those frustrated parents, sometimes your principal, or maybe even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Kiara Arce. She is the regional athletic coordinator for the Boston Public Schools, has a tremendous background, but right now I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 items in the toolbox. So, Kiara, what's going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
The first one I would say is the app Sports You. It's just like a social media thing, but it's more for communication and it negates all the text messaging and WhatsApp usage for coaches and players. The second thing will definitely be, I don't know, like extra clothes. Bring extra clothes. Students have always need to borrow clothes from me. And so I just started buying like, little random things from like Five Below, little t-shirts, or we have extra t-shirts that we give just in case a student needs pants or shirts. I always keep extra clothes in my car for them. And definitely just go into every day with, or at least try to go into every day with a positive attitude because students and just people in general just and kids just read off your energy a lot, and if they're struggling um and they come to you and they're emotional, distraught, whatever the case is, and they can see you stay so calm, usually helps them calm down. I think that's like one of the biggest things because with sports comes with a lot of high emotions, winning, losing, all that stuff. Just make sure to have that attitude to soak it all in and do what you need to do.
Oh, I love them all. The extra clothes, I'm gonna have to go back and do some research. That might be an original tool. We'll have to check on that. But positive attitude, of course, I can tell that just by spending this time with you on the podcast that you certainly bring that to your job. So, one more time, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and connect with you or add you to their network, I know you have a LinkedIn profile, but what's the best way that they can connect with you?
Honestly, our social media, Athletics BPS. My email is KARCE@bostonpublicschools.org. That, and then if you send me an email and I send you one back, there's my phone number is at the bottom of that email.
Okay. Well, Kiara, thanks again for sharing with our listeners. All the best as you get ready to open up school in a couple weeks. And we'll look forward to having you back on the podcast sometime.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and just remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this episode, we do these interviews about every week and just about every day. We try to share best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.